Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Adulting with Addie. I am Addye Buckley-Burnell, the Associate Director of Career Development in the University Career Center, and I have a special guest with us today. This is Miss Meaghan Weir. She is with Max Credit Union and works with the corporate communication area, and she is a former career counselor in our office, so I'm so excited to have her back to talk all things finances. Ooh, that's a scary term. All right, so Meaghan, thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited that you're willing to talk to us and give us some quick tips today about how to be an adult with our money.
Yes, it's, sometimes that's a little scary, right?
Yeah, all the time it's a little scary, especially right about now. I think money is a pretty frightening thought for most of us, being that we're in the middle of this pandemic and jobs are looking interesting at the moment. So this is opportune time for you to give some hints and tips about making sure that we are, giving ourselves a solid foundation.
Right.
So starting off, when I talk to most graduating seniors, and I remember back when I was a graduating senior back in the day, the idea of building credit and understanding how that impacts things like getting an apartment, even solidifying a loan, never even occurred to me. Can you give us some hints about how you can start building credit, either to start as a student or start as a new professional?
Sure. A lot of what we do as far as making big purchases relies on credit. And when a lender is looking at whether or not to extend that credit to you and loan you money, they are looking at what kind of risk they are taking. So if you have to kind of think about it in the perspective of that lender, what risk am I taking? So if you have a history that shows that you have borrowed money before, that you've paid it back on time, that you've met all of those financial obligations, that is going to make you appear less risky to the lender and make you more likely to be awarded the loans that you apply for. So when you're new and starting out, you don't have that history. And that's where a lot of people kind of say, well, what do I do? So some things that you can do starting out. Many people will start out in college as an authorized user on a parent's credit card. It's the parent's credit card. They will get one in their child's name and go out and use it and start building credit that way. If you are already in college, though, you may qualify for your own credit card. If you do that, you could start out with a really low limit. You have to know your tendencies and know your self-discipline to do this, but you could start out with a really low limit credit card and go out, maybe use it just to buy gas or use it just to buy groceries and pay it off every month. If you pay it off every month, you will avoid any kind of interest fees. And if you do that, that's going to help you build credit over time. You can also apply for a secured loan where you save up money in your savings account. Then you can, basically that money kind of gets pulled away and frozen, and you can borrow against yourself in essence, and then make those payments back against your secured loan. You can do that with a credit card as well, where you save up money in your savings and get a secured credit card. And oftentimes people who maybe don't have the credit history to qualify for other types of loans, they can start out with these secured loans and secured credit cards because they're less risk to the lender because you've got the money in your savings account, and that allows them to start building credit. So those are some ways that I would really encourage young people to look at. How do I build credit while maybe I'm still in school or when I first graduate? Because you do need a credit history to rent an apartment, if you're wanting to buy a car, if you're wanting to buy a house ultimately. And many employers will look at your credit history as well as during the hiring process.
That's such a good point. I mean, running a credit check has become very common in the application process. And if you do not have a good score or non-existent credit, that doesn't look favorable as far as getting a position.
I mean, a lot of places, if you're looking at working in the financial industry, if you're looking to work for government type positions, I mean, it can be very risky to take on somebody that's got, in a poor financial state. So, those are just two examples of places that run your credit for hiring, but a lot of employers will do that these days.
So it's important that if you do get credit cards, to be paying them off and not just incurring more and more debt, because if you graduate with debt, that's certainly not going to work well for you moving forward financially. Now, one of the things that I often get questions about, and I don't always know the best answer to tell students, is things about the types of accounts they could be looking at. I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about finances and are afraid to talk about money. Well, we're kind of trained that way. So the idea of, all of these thousands of different types of accounts that are out there that you could be putting your money into, whether it's a basic, checking versus savings versus money equity or, money market accounts. There's a lot out there. Tell me a little bit about those accounts and what is most common for new adults.
Most people will, when they start out, they will get a savings account, or maybe they've had a savings account that they set up when they were younger, or a parent may have set it up for them when they were younger. A lot of financial institutions offer youth savings accounts that will go with somebody up until age 25. So we find, especially with college students, you may still have that youth savings account that you've had since you were little. But you might start now kind of transitioning to those more adult professional accounts. You still will probably have a savings account. It's a great place to just put some general funds that you may need quickly. We call those very, liquid assets. So an example in times like this where the economy may be down, if you lose your job, you want to be able to put your hands on your money. So you might have an emergency fund in a traditional savings account. Now, when you start going out and you're spending, you're going to the grocery store, you're shopping a lot, buying gas, all of that, you're probably going to want a checking account because checking accounts are our transactional accounts. They are designed for you to put money in and then spend that money. So a savings account is going to limit you on how many times you can withdraw money from that account in a given month because the goal is to save that money. So if you're spending money often and pulling money out of your account, you want a checking account for your transactions. That's where we can use our debit card. You could write a check. You can get cash out on it. You can use it for online shopping or to use peer-to-peer payment systems like Venmo and Cash App and Apple Cash and all that fun stuff. And so that's where most people are going to start using a checking account. Money market accounts can be great if you have a larger sum of money. Most money market accounts require you to have about $2,500, and they earn higher interest rates. They have higher interest rates than your traditional savings accounts. So you can earn more money on that. But you typically have to have that higher starting balance. One thing that's newer on the market is a reverse money market account. And so with a reverse money market account, it rewards people with smaller balances and really is a great way to start saving your money. Because, for example, with Max, we have a reverse money market account where you have a minimum balance or minimum deposit of $50. You can earn 5% interest on your first $2,500. And so we're seeing that kind of come into the market a little bit more, but it's great for young savers who are just starting out.
And for those who don't know, 5% interest is kind of unheard of right now. So that's really great.
Yeah. Especially for a savings type account. If you're, it's not even, you don't even find that much in investment accounts right now. So it's pretty good. And there are many places now that will offer you an interest on your checking account. And so if you use your checking account often, if you swipe it, about 15 or more times a month, if you're getting direct deposit coming into your account, look at an account that's going to pay you interest on that checking account, because there are some institutions locally that are paying well, and even nationally that are paying really good interest rates for you to have that money in your checking account. You just have to make sure you're going to meet the minimum requirements. And typically that is, 10 or 15 swipes per month, signing up for e-statements, having a mobile deposit or a direct deposit monthly. You just want to make sure you're meeting those requirements, or else you might be charged a fee.
Interesting. Now, I know we had mentioned just a minute ago about that kind of having things in savings and making sure that we are preparing for times that may not be as easy. Tell me a little bit about your recommendations as far as budgeting and how much money out of every paycheck we should be putting into a savings account.
One of my favorite methods or models to follow when you're looking at where should I put my money for my budget is the 50-30-20 plan. So with that model, you really look at, first, I'm going to put 20% of my income towards savings goals. This could be a general savings account, or it could be a retirement fund. It's just any kind of savings goal that you may have. And then allocate 50% to your needs. These are things that you have to survive. So housing, food, water, shelter, housing, clothing, that sort of thing. And then the remaining 30% can go to wants. And those are the things that are, really nice to have, but I could live without them. So maybe those extra, cable accounts that you have, we can all live without Hulu, Netflix, all of the other ones, Disney Plus. We don't need all of those. They're just kind of nice to have sometimes. Extra pairs of shoes. I know people who love to buy lots and lots of shoes. And so, those extra pairs of shoes could be something in your wants, other luxury items. And so kind of taking that 50, 30, 20 breakdown, I think is a great way to make sure that you're hitting all the basics. You're not going to feel restricted because you are still getting to spend money on the wants, but you're making sure you don't forget the savings piece as well. And I'm a big believer in paying yourself first, pulling that money out of your paycheck and putting it into savings immediately. Because if we wait till the end of the month and we say, you know what, I'm going to save whatever's left over, then it's going to be left over. We are going to spend that money. So pull it out before you miss it, put it into savings.
I fully agree with that. I think that was one of the greatest tips I was given when I was a new adult. Making sure that anything that I know is important, that is part of what my goals are, gets pulled out immediately so I don't even notice it. And then, what's left over is more for, spending as opposed to the opposite. Because if it's there, it gets spent. So I think that is a really great thing for everyone to know. Are there any last hints or tips that you would like to share?
My biggest piece of advice with kind of on that front is, go ahead and start now. Sometimes people think, oh, I'll do that when I get a job, or I'll do that when I live on my own, or we always set these, goals that we will put these plans into action when something else happens. And I think you need to start doing what you can now. So start saving now, even if it's just $10 a paycheck. If you work part-time and you really can't afford to save a lot, just look at what can I put away. Even if it's a small amount, start the habit now. Look at your budget now. If you start making the habit of making good choices with your money as a college student or a young professional, that's going to carry with you. If you think, oh, I don't have enough to save for retirement, put away a little bit and add to it as you get a bigger job. So that's the biggest thing, is don't put off building these good financial habits early, because it's easier to start now. I promise you, once you get married and have kids and, earn more money, it does not get any easier to practice these financial habits. So start it early, and hopefully once you start that habit, it'll stick with you.
And that's a good point too about the retirement, because I think most new professionals don't really think about retirement right away. But in order for you to be able to get to that point, you may need to start saving as soon as you start getting those paychecks. And so it's never too early to begin that process as well.
No, the earlier you start saving, the less you will have to put away over time.
Very good information. Well, thank you so much for your time, Meaghan. We so appreciate it. This is the latest edition of Adulting with Addye. We'll see you soon.